Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome. Just going to take a few minutes here and wait for people to file in. We'll just kind of hang out while we are waiting. Hope to have quite a few people here today. That'll be pretty fun. Thank you guys for muting your mics when you come in. Just kind of helps to manage the noise of the room. Swifter Things is the name of this. It's going to be really fun. You know what? I'm not actually even sure if you can see my cool desktop. That's kind of the point. That's what I was trying to show you. Yeah, there you go. Can you guys see that? Oh, let me pull up in the chat here. I don't have it open just yet. There it is. Oh yeah, you guys can see it. Cool. Hey guys, welcome. Welcome Nuno. Welcome Weario. And Heidi. Welcome, welcome. And Crack the Code. What's up? Welcome. Welcome Theodore. Hey guys and gals. We're gonna be doing some fun stuff today, talking about Swift and iOS and Xcode and all kinds of fun things like that. I'll give maybe, 30 seconds or so to let people file in. Make sure that you have the chat open if you want. You can send in some questions. And if there are questions that you'd like to ask, I will be sure to pause and just give you guys an opportunity to unmute your mics, and we will be able to do that. It'll be really fun. So Nuno asked if I'm feeling better. Yes, I'm like 100% today, feeling great. It's a weird stomach bug just came out of nowhere and basically knocked me out. Like the last 2 days have basically been a blur. But yeah, no, feeling a lot better. Thanks for asking. Really appreciate it. Yeah, so just a reminder, as you guys are joining, be sure to mute your mics. You can keep your cameras on if you want. It's up to you. But just make sure that your mic is muted, and I'll be sure to pause and take some time to answer some questions. So I think it's about time to dive in. So let me pause my music here. There we go. And we'll go ahead and quit the Swifter Things. Looks like my screen share has stopped. So let me go ahead and fix that. Boom. There we go. Lovely. So similarly to last week, it seemed like you guys were cool with the format that I ran with last week, which basically I started with some Apple and iOS news, just talking about some cool new things coming up, or that might be coming up. I guess a lot of it is rumors, but it's pretty likely. And then we talked about some cool Swift and iOS code libraries and projects that I found, just things that can make your life easier as a developer, or could even inspire you to build something similar. And then we're going to do a bit of learning, just a really kind of a short, small lesson on data structures today. It'll be pretty fun. And then I have a bunch of jobs to show you. I have 5 non-remote jobs around the world. So I have options in the US and just around the world, depending on where you live. They might not all apply to you, but hopefully one of them does. And then remote, I have 5 remote jobs as well, all iOS. And you guys asked for junior developer positions. I didn't find any that specifically said junior developer, but I did find a few jobs that I think as a junior developer, you'd be more than qualified to apply for. So stay tuned until the end, and I'll be sure to share those with you. So hey to whoever just joined, welcome. Good to see you. And so yeah, let's go ahead and get started. We're going to begin. Whoops, I can't see my doc down here. We're going to begin with where is that tab? There it is. All right. We're going to begin with a brief bit of news. Yes, here it is. And so we're going to be talking first about a rumor that is from KGI, which is a pretty well-known source of kind of leaking out information on upcoming Apple products. And apparently, they're going to be, Apple, according to this rumor, will be releasing a more affordable 13-inch MacBook Air in Q2 of 2018, which I was under the impression that the MacBook Air was dead, like that Apple sort of discontinued it. But it seems that they may be releasing a more affordable MacBook Air in Q2, which is pretty cool. Also, they've said that the HomePod demand has been mediocre so far, which is not entirely surprising. So that's just one little thing I wanted to share. If you've been looking into iOS development and wanting to get into it, a MacBook Air is an okay way to get started. It's not going to give you the most, oomph, not going to give you the most firepower, but if you need to start on a budget, that's a pretty good option to get started. The more advanced your projects get, the more beefier of a computer you're going to need. But anyway, just wanted to share that. Thought that was kind of neat. A Korean report claims that Apple will drop the iPhone 10 notch in 2019 iPhones. There's sort of been a race for being the first entirely bezel-less smartphone. It would be pretty cool, and the reason I'm sharing this is because it's going to change, at least a little bit, how your app interfaces and how your designs will appear. So it seems like Apple's been in discussion with several different suppliers about how they could remove the notch. But of course, when you think about what's going on in the top notch of the iPhone 10, there's a lot of tech in here. I don't know if you guys remember this, but the proximity sensor and all of the devices up here, Apple basically bought, I don't know if they bought the tech or they bought the company, but basically the tech that makes the Microsoft Connect work is literally micro-sized and smushed into the top of an iPhone 10 for facial tracking and for object tracking, things like that. So there's a lot of tech up in the front of this phone, and if Apple's really switching to Face ID, then it's definitely going to be difficult to remove or replace those parts. Now, fingerprint sensors, of course, as you saw at CES this year, they can be done well through OLED touchscreens, which is pretty cool. And some companies have even gone about moving the speaker up to the very tippy top of the phone, so that you're still holding it to your face and the sound's still going into your ear. It's just not on the display itself. And some companies have even gone so far as to basically use bone induction to where vibrations are sent through the glass of the screen and into your head, therefore allowing you to hear it without there actually being a speaker in place, which is pretty cool. So with all that said, notch-free iPhones could mean changes for your app designs, and yet another thing that we have to think about as UI, UX designers while also being iOS developers. So anyway, rumors are that a cheaper HomePod and MacBook Air could be coming this year. I already touched on the MacBook Air, but for those of you who had been considering the HomePod, if you've bought into the Apple ecosystem, a cheaper HomePod could be coming this year, as well as a Face ID iPad Pro, which may or may not include a notch on the top. With Face ID, the way that Apple's currently doing it, it involves a notch. So it could or could not include that. I don't know. But anyway, just kind of an interesting thing to think about. And something else I read as well that was kind of interesting was someone's thoughts on the HomePod. There's a lot of people that are saying, compared to Alexa or compared to Google Home. Whoops, I just woke up my Alexa device. Anyway, compared to Alexa or Google Home, where there are just so many, integrations and so many skills and so many things available, the HomePod just can't compete. And there are just so fewer HomeKit users compared to, Google Assistant or, devices that connect with Alexa. And that's true. But, I see Apple, since they know so much about us already, I feel like the HomePod can only sort of get better from here on out. And hopefully the initial response to people, with Siri compared to Alexa, compared to Google Assistant, hopefully Apple gets their stuff together and decides that it's important to them to really, really, overhaul and revamp the AI that's going on with Siri, because they do know a ton about us. They know a lot about, our messaging, our calling, and just based on how we use our iPhones, they're pretty well poised to make the HomePod even better, especially if they open developers up to develop, apps for the HomePod specifically. That could be really, really cool. Yeah, Rob, I think that you're totally right about the new iPad. If it's like a bezel-less look with Face ID, that's going to be super, super nice. Just kind of thinking about how my iPad right now, it's great, but if I had a few extra inches of real estate on the screen and Face ID as well would be pretty cool. So yeah, I'm totally down for that. All right. Moving on, iOS 12 concept, which of course, bear in mind.
At least at all.
What was that?
But I don't know if I'm an admin enough to.
Who did you pick to win?
What's up?
I picked the BYU girls soccer team. I think they're going to take it all the way.
Not on here.
Denver's a good pick.
Oh, I think that. Okay, hold on. Oh, there we go. Yeah, I think the mic got unmuted for a sec. I thought you were asking a question. Anyway, and we will ask questions in just a sec. But yeah, guys. So basically, iOS 12 concept here offers a refreshed look at the lock screen, the app bar guest mode, which would be kind of cool. Although I don't really ever let anybody use my phone, so I don't know if I would use that myself. Face ID tricks and more. So I'll just kind of walk through this. I think this could be a pretty cool iteration for iOS 12. Like I said last week, or maybe it was the week before, iOS 12, I believe, will focus on stability and performance more than like fancy new features. But a refreshed home screen, they think it looks nicer without the app names. I don't know. I think it looks okay. Like, it's not the most amazing thing. I kind of like having the app names there. But yeah, so anyway, that's an idea. And widgets from being able to swipe down from the front-facing camera, and then maybe on the left would show your whole lock screen. The center could show like a widget that you pull down, like if you have a particular widget you love to use that you would rather, just have quick access to. Could be kind of cool. It could also kind of be unnecessary. It's hard to know without actually seeing it, but could be a cool implementation. Aside from that, you could lock apps, which I think people have wanted this for a long time. Apple just hasn't done it. But basically lock apps and then unlock them with Face ID, things like that. This soundbar, this is something I think really needs to happen, and Apple has integrated it into their video player. However, it would be so nice if the volume heads-up display or HUD or whatever you're going to call it, it'd be awesome if it didn't take over the entire screen. If somehow it could just pop up slightly below the notch there, or no notch, 2019 could happen, and it would just blend right into the top and not get in the way of anything you're doing. It would be really, really nice. But, who knows? Guest mode would basically lock out apps that you don't want anybody other than a guest to use. So it would leave, the stock apps like the camera, although I'd probably lock that one out. Maps, alarms, Safari could be good for emergency situations, like if your phone was stolen. Like, I don't really know why you would use that, but it could be useful. The app bar, it's a cool idea. People are showing, basically you'd pull from the side and it would show your recently used apps or even like your favorite apps. Could be kind of a neat interaction for multitasking, but again, not really super, super keen on that. Kind of a neat idea, but another thing that I thought, I've never really considered split view on the iPhone. But I mean, if you look at this interaction, sure, like it's cramped, but it's also not the worst thing in the world. To think about, you would tap here for iMessage and then you'd be able to type. It would cover up the App Store at the bottom. But then if you wanted to, you could search for something down here. Like, I don't know, it could be cool, but it also seems like could be a bit squished. Same with the camera. This is something I think needs to really be changed. And like, Apple has done some work to make this better, but the camera overall, I think, could have a lot more features. When you look at apps like Filmic Pro, you can tweak like every single aspect of the camera. This would just be so amazing to be able to adjust, the white balance, the zoom, the recording resolution, frames per second, everything, and even be able to like record and then pause your recording and maybe hold down or force press to finish recording. Like, there are so many things they could do to make the stock iOS app so much better. And as you can see, this is just like a little pull-down tray. So you would, flick up with your thumb and you'd be able to see all these little features just built right into the camera app. Seems like it would be a pretty simple solution, but yeah. Anyway, that's kind of cool. So there's that. Boom. This is just a quick little iOS tip I discovered. I had no idea you could do this, but apparently if you search for your flight number, it will show up in your Spotlight search, and it'll show you all the details for your flight, whether it's on time, where it's going, when it's departing. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it'll even show you your gate, which is pretty cool. Like, you don't have to download a third-party app for this. It's just built into Spotlight. So, fun fact, you can search for your flights, and you can even, get directions straight to the airport by tapping on the airport. It's pretty cool. So, there's that. And again, for you iOS mobile game fans, Fortnite Battle Royale is coming to iOS. And if you go to their website, which I believe if you just go to Fortnite.com, it'll take you to their website. Yeah, and then over here on the left, there's an invite event for iOS. I'm already on the list, but basically you just put in your email that you use for your Apple ID, and then they'll send you an email for an invite code, sort of like an open beta. And from what I've heard, the mobile event is or not the mobile event, but the mobile game is very, very strong. I talked to one of the developers, actually. He reached out to us on Instagram, and I just chatted with him for a bit about the experience of developing Fortnite for mobile. And he said it's one of the best like mobile games of its kind, of that kind of a shooter game for mobile. So I'm really excited to try it. I haven't gotten to play it yet, but it could be really cool. So anyway, let's move on. The next thing we're going to talk about, like I said, I don't even remember now. Oh yeah, cool Swift and iOS code libraries. So the first one is called Disk, and I tried to find ones that are pretty recent, as well as ones that are persistently updated, lots of commits and lots of pull requests, things that have been added to it. And Disk is basically a framework for iOS to persist structs, images, and data in a really, really simple way. So once you download it and set it up, through CocoaPods or Carthage or whatever you use. Oh, sorry, I'm getting distracted. Heidi, thanks for sharing that. I did not know that Swift Playgrounds can go back and forth with iCloud to Xcode that on your Mac. That's super cool. Awesome. That's really cool. Sorry. So once you install Disk, you basically can persist things of all these types: codable, an array of codables, UI image, data, things like that. And there are different directories, which is pretty cool, that it uses. However, your structs, if you're going to persist a struct, it needs to conform to codable. And then basically you can just try disk.save, and you can save it to the caches directory, which is just part of the iOS data storage stuff. It's just built in, which is pretty cool. So you can just cache it that way, and then to retrieve it, you just call disk.retrieve, and you say, where it is. You retrieve it from caches, and you can return it as an instance of that class, which is just really, really cool. So yeah, it's really, really cool. Same with images. You can store images into the cache or into the documents directory. Same with data. So if you took a video and you were to basically, convert it into data, you could save that data and then retrieve it in the same way. Of course, returning it as the class, of type data, as you would expect. So really cool stuff. Hey, AR, what's going on, man? Welcome. So that is Disk. It's a really, really powerful persistence framework, and I'm going to start sharing these links in the chat very shortly. Hopefully the links come through the way I'm hoping, but let's get through these two first, and then I'll share the links. Next up is Deck Transition, which is pretty neat. It was updated just 7 days ago, so really current. Basically, it's a library that allows you to get the Apple Music and iMessage-like slide-up card. So the background VC will minimize down and fade, and then the rounded one pops up. So you could have this to present details or some type of control in the middle of your application. Really, really cool, kind of a drag and drop thing that you can add in and then set your view controllers with the proper delegate. So that is Deck Transition, pretty cool. And next up is Paper Onboarding. So it's a material design UI slider, and it allows you to create very cool, very pretty onboarding experiences. So as you swipe throughout your onboarding experience, you can basically set these neat little animations. There's lots you can do with this, and it tells you how to set everything up. It's all programmatic, which is pretty cool. And yeah, so anyway, that is Paper Onboarding. It's just kind of a neat way to make nice little slider animations for your onboarding experiences, which is sort of like your first impression when someone opens your app. So there's that. I'm going to share the links to all that for you guys right now. Oh, you know what? Hold on. The links are not coming through, which is weird. So let me share these manually to you. Here is Disk. Let me see, Disk. There we go. Boom. The other one was Deck Transition. Let me get that one to you as well. There you go. And the last one was Paper Onboarding. But yeah, guys, give them a look over, contribute to them if you want. Heidi, yes, I can post the URLs in Slack. When this is all done, I'll be sure to copy and paste everything in there. So no worries. All right, cool. So that is that. Those are some sweet Swift libraries and projects that I found. Hope you guys enjoyed them. And now we're going to move on to the learning portion. So we are now going to talk about the stack data structure. Disk actually, so what it does is in the,
Hang on, okay?
whoops, where was I? Let's see, in,
Yeah, my phone sucks.
that's all right, no worries. There you go, I gotcha. I think I muted it. Cool, okay. So yeah, disk is similar to core data in that it persists data, but it's using the built-in iOS data storage directories that are accessible to developers. So like there's a caches folder, a documents folder, et cetera, and it actually uses those to persist it to the device in a slightly less convoluted way than core data. Just something kind of cool to look into. It's an alternate to core data, I would say, but it's not the same. So now we're going to talk about the stack data structure. And you know what? I actually have a diagram here that I can pull up to show you visually what a stack looks like. And let's see, there it is. Yeah, really cool. Okay, so it looks like the image itself is gone, so I'll just use my sketch document here. But this is visually what a stack looks like. And so a stack is a data structure that operates, if you think about like a stack of plates or a stack of really anything. Obviously, you have an item at the very bottom, and then you continue to place items on top of that item, and that is your stack, right? A data stack works the same exact way. So at one point, number 9 down here in the bottom was the only item in the stack, and it was the first item. But then as I added another item on top of the stack, number 3, it got pushed down, and then the newest item was now in the 0 index, or the first index, right? So basically, a stack has 3 different functions that we can use to interact with it. There is push, which allows us to add an item onto the stack. There is peek, which is going to allow us to look at and see what the, oh, that's weird. I appear to be logged out. Oh, hey, Jason. Are you logged into Mark's account?
Let me log out.
Oh, yeah, no worries. Thanks, man. Sorry, so we share an account, so sometimes when we log into one account, we get booted off the other account. It's kind of funny. Anyways, so a stack has 3 functions. We have push, which allows us to add an item to the stack, to the top, to keep adding. And then there's peek, which returns the value of the topmost item in the stack. And then beyond that, there is pop, which actually removes the top item. So it deletes the top item, but returns that value. And since it's so linear in structure, in Swift, we can actually house it in an array, and we can interact with that array to create the functions push, peek, and pop. Okay? Okay. Awesome. Can you guys still hear me?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Yep, thanks, guys. Sorry, we're having a bit of trouble getting, sometimes when you log into Zoom, it like saves your account online and then automatically tries to, log you in. So you have to log out on both the app and the website in order to properly log out. So anyway, like I said, an array is a perfect type for us to build a stack because it's so linear and we can easily add items to the top of it. So let's go ahead and let's look at the code here. And where did I put it? There it is. Beautiful. So there we go. All right. So I'm going to show you the code here. It's actually really simple. There's not much to it. There we go. I'm nice and zoomed in. Is that big enough for everybody? Hope so. Yeah, cool. So like I said, stack, we're going to just use a struct to build one. And I have in here an items array. Okay, it's of type string. This stack is going to be of type string. And to be specific, I probably should have said string stack, but you can use generics so that this can be used with whatever, but just for this example, I use string. And like I said, there is peek, pop, and push. Okay. All of these items, all of these functions have different jobs. So the items array is private because outside of this struct, I don't need to use that items array because I want these functions to actually interact with it and do the work for me. And so that's why these are, well, they should be public, really. I should be specific and state their visibility. So I'm going to do that really quick. There we go. Boom, boom. Awesome. And so what we're going to do is we're going to talk about what's going on here with peek. So like I said, peek is the function that's going to allow you to, peek is going to allow you to look at, sorry, quick question. Heidi's asking why I used the struct. The reason I used the struct was honestly just for the simplicity of this example. If I used a class, I would have had to create an initializer and pass in all these values, but a struct was just a little smaller and easier to use without needing to deal with the initialization. There's not really a benefit to using a struct versus a class with this particular example, so it's not a really great reason. I just happened to go with a struct. So peek is a function, and it allows us to look at the top element of our stack. So if you think of a stack of plates, you would look at, you see, okay, what is that top plate? So I'm using a guard let here to return the top item of our items array, and that I'm just accessing that by typing items.first. Okay, items.first is going to get us the first item in that array. And the reason I'm using guard let here is because I want to make sure that there is actually an item here, because I've made this an empty array. There are no items inside. So if there are no items, it will call fatal error, which if you look, basically unconditionally prints a given message and stops execution, because this function should not keep going if the stack is empty. And it will print out this error message saying, hey, stack's empty, man, don't do it. Otherwise, if there is an item, which most of the time there is, you can't really call this if you don't have an instance of your stack. And if you do, then you probably have added an item. But just to be safe, we then basically return that top element to our function. So we can actually get it without doing anything to it. It doesn't modify the function. It doesn't do anything to it other than just show us what's on top. Then we're going to move down to the pop function. Okay. Now the pop function also returns a string, but you might be noticing there's a keyword here called mutating. And that is one thing, actually, Heidi, I should clarify. One thing that I had to do, since this is a struct, in order to actually modify the values in here, because a struct, I always get these flipped. Struct is a, hold on, I can't remember. Is a struct a reference type or a value type? I always flip it's a value type. So sorry, since a struct is a value type, we shouldn't be modifying the values inside. And so in order to allow us to do this, we're going to call mutating. Yes, because mutating says, hey, this function can modify the values inside this struct. And so basically pop, like I said, it returns the topmost item and then removes that value so that it's gone from our stack. So if we wanted to remove the top item, let's say it was, I don't know, a to-do list that ordered things based on when we put them in. So the first item would be at the bottom, then the next would be, the most recent one that we put would be at the top, or kind of like Facebook, right? If you have your news feed and things are supposed to be ordered chronologically, whoever knows if they are based on their algorithms. But anyway, if I called pop, what it would do is it would return the value of the top item to me, and then it would remove it from the array. And luckily, the remove first function of a Swift array does that, removes and returns the first element of the collection. So pretty cool stuff. If there are 0 items, it won't work. So I probably could have added in some code here to make sure that there is an item, but this function it won't work if there's not, and it'll return an error if there's nothing. So that is what that does. And then the mutating function here called push, what it's going to do is we're going to pass it an element. We're going to insert that element at the index 0, which is the very front of our array or the top of our stack, which is pretty cool. So that's how that works. There's not really anything to discuss there. We're just inserting an item to the top of the stack. It's mutating because it's actually mutating the value of an array in our struct. And that's required for structs. It's not for classes. So Anyway, that is how a stack works. It's very simple. And now we're going to actually look at how to implement it. Now, ignore these prints here. I'm going to show you how they work. But basically, oh, well, hold on. I'm going to comment this out and then show you that at the end. So, I'm going to run it really fast. There we go. Okay. So first, I create a variable called nameStack, and I just create an empty stack. I initialize a stack. Then I print it. And as you can see, it's a stack. There's an items array with nothing inside. Okay. Now I call nameStack.push, and I push in a name. Okay. Then I do that again. I pass in Charles. Then I pass in Tina, and then I print it again. And as you can see, the items array has populated with 3 values. Now, if you remember, the index of an array goes 0, 1, 2, 3 because of 0 indexing. And if you look at our diagram, if you remember, our diagram of a stack actually goes in the same way. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way down to whatever value you want. 0 all the way to a million. Okay, that's how the indexes work. So if you think about it that way, the way that this is working, we have the top item is Tina, because that was the last added, right? Then Charles, then Caleb. And then basically I call nameStack.peak. As you can see on the right here, it returns Tina, which I'll give us a little bit more room to see there. It returns Tina, but then I print the stack again, and none of the data has changed, proving that it actually just is returning the value. Okay. Then we have, well, what do I do next? I call nameStack.pop, which returns the top value, Tina. So we have access to that bit of data. But then when we print out the name stack, you'll see it's been removed. Only Charles and Caleb are left, and Charles is now at the top of the stack. So that's pretty cool. Obviously, this would be helpful maybe like, you know, let's say you had a social media app and you posted an item into the stack, right? Like let's say you were using a stack to organize the posts for a particular channel. Yes. Oh, yeah. By the way, to comment all the lines, you just select what you want and then do command / and it'll comment out the whole chunk, which is pretty cool. Thanks for commenting that in. Yeah. So what was I saying? Oh, yeah. So let's say we had a social media app where you were using a stack to house all of the posts. Basically, what you would be able to do is, let's say that you posted one and suddenly you wanted to edit it. So you could tap the edit button. That's where you would call pop, right? Because, well, okay, that's not a great example, but so let's say, you know, I don't know, maybe you wanted to, yeah, edit it, which I guess would remove it from the stack for a moment. And then you could edit your post because it would return the value of what you posted. Then you could edit it and push save, and it would push it back onto the stack. I mean, that's not a great example, but that is, I guess, an example. So anyway, other uses for the stack, by the way, people are saying like, you know, I get this, but I want to make sure, like, what is a real world example? Well, think about things like in your web browser, okay? When you actually are building a feature, and let's say that you wanted to go to a website, you open your browser, you open a new tab, you type in, I don't know, Google, and you go to Google. You've loaded a website onto a stack, right? You push the website onto a stack of websites that you visited. Then let's say you type in Google something and you push search, and then that takes you to the next page, right? That is the next item in your stack. Then you click on a link, that takes you to the next item in your stack. And then if you wanted to be able to access the previous item, what you could do is you could click on the back button, right? Which what that's doing is that is basically going to call pop. It'll remove the top item, return you to the next top item, right? Which was the previous page. And then it will hold a reference to the page that you were just at, because pop will return and remove an item. Yeah, so yes, that's a good way of thinking about it. A stack is sort of like a history, except you can only access the topmost item and remove it one at a time, just like you would have a stack of plates. Now, the stack has been around for a long time, and there are much more efficient data structures, but this is just one that can be used for some pretty simple use cases. Same with like in an app, like an undo or a redo button. If you wanted to basically store the actions of a user, like let's say if you had an app where someone could draw, oh, hello, if you had an app where someone could draw with their finger, maybe, you know, the line that you record could be pushed onto a stack, and that'll be down at the bottom. Then they draw again, and then again and again and again. And if they wanted to undo something, they could push undo, and it would delete that little drawing. And then they push undo again, it would delete the next item from the stack, calling pop. And when you call pop, you could basically set the value, because pop returns and removes a value. You could set that value to be the redo button. So when they push redo, it could add that value back onto the stack using push. So there's a lot of cool ways to integrate that in programming. So that's cool. Now, I want to talk about this quick little extension down here at the bottom. It is an extension of our stack struct, and it conforms to the custom string convertible protocol. And basically what it's doing is I am overriding the description variable for our stack. And what it's going to do is basically we're going to create a divider at the top that is just these lines that say stack. Then at the bottom, it's just more lines. But in between, we're going to basically take all of the elements of our stack. So in this case, Tina, Charles, Caleb, and we're going to join them with a line break. Okay, so the separator that joins them is a line break. So we're going to basically put each item onto its own separate line and then put them together. And what this is going to do is print out a much more visual way to understand our stacks. And when this actually runs, you'll see what I mean. So here's our empty stack. Then here's our first one, and Tina is at the top of the stack, then Charles, then Caleb. Then I called peek, which of course did nothing except for return Tina. Then I called pop, which removed the top item and just shows Charles and Caleb now. So it's just a kind of a neat way to add a much more visual appearance to our stack. Pretty cool. So that is that. Really simple stuff. Not too complicated. Can't talk today. Not too complicated. That's the stack, guys. That's one data structure that I particularly think is pretty cool. It's simple, yet it has some pretty elegant ways of enhancing user experience if you use it for undo or redo, et cetera, et cetera. And yeah, that's that. So let's go ahead and let's move on to our job postings. I hope you guys are excited. I'm going to actually go ahead and pause for a sec. I have talked for a lot of minutes. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to unmute your mics, chime out. I'd love to hear from you guys. And just, yeah, hear what you're thinking, or if you guys have questions, feel free. Yeah, go ahead. And I'll just wait here awkwardly for a few minutes if you guys don't have any questions, but that's fine with me. I'll drink some water, clear my throat. I'm starting to get dry throat from talking too much.
No questions from me, man.
Yes, what's up?
All good. No, I'm saying no questions, just taking it all in. You know, I haven't dived into iOS really at all, so this is all great information. Really good stuff.
Cool. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Cool. Any other questions, guys? It's fine if you don't have any. You can always it's fine if you want to pop them into the chat. That's totally fine. Yeah. Undo and redo. Yeah, that's definitely one way that the stack can be utilized. Like I said as well, you know, web browser history, like storing all of the pages you visited, and if you click the back button, it will remove the current page from the stack and save it as the forward button, and then it'll, you know, unload to the previous one. So cool. Let's go ahead and let's talk about the job listings. Okay, I found a bunch of cool ones. The first one is at a company called, and I'll be sure to share these links both here in the chat and in Slack as well. Here we go. So the first job, I've got a bunch of them here for you today, is an iOS developer for smart home technology. Now, bear in mind, this is in München, Germany. Okay, so if you're near that area, this could be a great fit for you. They are offering visa sponsorship and paid relocation, which is pretty cool. So if you live in Europe, and that's something that you're interested in, this could be a pretty cool setup for you. They'll pay you to relocate, and they will sponsor your visa. Not a lot of companies do that, so this is pretty cool. Basically, they're a smart home technology company, and they are expecting an iOS developer to push their beautiful app to the next level. So basically, you're going to be building new and innovative product features in their iOS app. You'll collaborate with Android and Windows developers, but work closely with our server developers for API stuff, data models, etc. Now, they're asking for at least 3 years experience with app development for iOS. Bear in mind, that doesn't always mean professional in an actual job experience. Obviously, that's helpful. But if you have, studied your butt off for 5 years and you've been building apps and you've released apps to the App Store, that's relevant experience. So, excuse me. Familiarity with iOS SDKs, things like core location, object-oriented design, enthusiasm for beautiful code. Hopefully that you guys are all into that. Source control like Git and GitHub, software testing. This sounds like a really great job, and it's in Germany. So there's one option for you. Let's continue. The next one is for a company called Dolo, based out of San Francisco. This is not a remote job, sadly. However, if you live in the Bay Area, this could be a great job for you. iOS developer with Swift experience, first hire at Fun Startup. Dolo is a location-based message board for socializing and discovering what's happening around you. They are pre-seed, backed by Floodgate and select angel investors, offering a $70,000 to $90,000 salary. But remember, that's in California, so that's not that much for California. Anyway, so basically highly skilled at iOS development, particularly Swift, which is cool. You have owned the code base for at least one complex iOS app. Excitement about joining a startup in its earliest days and about growing the business and culture with the team. Experience driving medium or large app projects. Experience with frameworks like Core Data, Core Animation. Nuno, yes, I promise. I have 5 remote jobs that I'm going to share right at the end. I have 5 non-remote first, though. Proficiency with UI development, RESTful APIs. I mean, if you've taken the Apple slope, this is all the stuff that you know. Real-time architectures and messaging, pub/sub. So think, things like Firebase, and I think there's one called PubNub, which is the same thing. Cloud message APIs and push notifications. Extra things, if you know Facebook SDK, AWS, CleverTap, RX Swift, or Realm, which lots of those you can learn from us as well. This is another great job, being an iOS developer, building out some new features for a location-based message board app. Pretty cool stuff. Here we go. Another one is for an iOS engineer at Babbel, which is the language learning platform based out of Berlin, Germany, and they're offering 50 to 60,000 euros per year with Visa sponsorship, which I think is really cool. Not paid relocation, but Visa sponsorship it's really expensive. So that's pretty cool that they're doing that. And basically, they're asking that you have experience with iOS development, 2 to 3 years, excellent understanding of mobile platforms and their unique features, engineering practices, confidence in driving architectural decisions, proficiency in long-term maintenance of complex code bases, experience with REST-based APIs, solid understanding of lean and agile practices, and fluency in written and spoken English is what they're asking for. Basically, they talk about what you will do and what Babbel's about. So it seems like a pretty cool iOS engineer job if you're near the Berlin, Germany area. They will sponsor your visa if you're from out of country. And there's that. All right, next job is an Android or iOS developer for Citymapper based out of London. Again, offering visa sponsorship, which is really cool. Permanent position, junior, mid-level, and senior. Looks like they're willing to hire, any level of person. And so basically, if you know Citymapper, they're like a transport service app. They help you to, get the most up-to-date information on like urban transport. And basically, it says that on iOS, their code base is still heavily Objective-C. So it's one downside, though we are developing new features in Swift. So if you want to invest in the company and I mean, not like with money, but like invest in what they're doing, help them convert things over to Swift, that could be pretty cool. You should be comfortable with Objective-C or be willing to ramp up your Objective-C stuff. Android, it's a mixture of reactive Java and Kotlin for new features. So pretty cool stuff. That's one great place you could go to check them out. So Citymapper, there you go. And this last one is not remote. It is US-based in Irving, Texas, for an iOS developer for Pioneer prescription pharmacy software, which Doesn't sound like the most exciting thing in the world. Like it's not a, a sexy startup job, but they're offering a $20,000 sign-up bonus, which is pretty cool. So when you sign on, they would, pay you a bonus up front, which is pretty neat. And basically, they're asking for 1 to 4 years iOS development experience, 2+ years of Android development experience preferred, not required. Strong understanding of Swift and Objective-C design patterns, experience developing, testing, and supporting mobile apps and web services, et cetera, et cetera. You can read the rest if you're interested in that. It's a pretty sweet deal if you're near the Irving, Texas area or willing to move there. So there's that. Now we're on to remote jobs. Drum roll, please. You don't have to do that. I just wanted to. Anyway, so drum roll. Oh, I just said that. Sometimes when you talk to yourself, well, not to yourself, I'm talking to you guys, but when you talk in front of a microphone too long, you start to repeat yourself. And anyway, so first job is at Doximity, which I can't exactly remember what Doximity does. They're rewiring healthcare, sixth fastest growing tech company in North America. For them, transparency is key. So it's basically like a healthcare company that has some native apps that help doctors and hospitals and patients. And so 3 years of professional experience developing software. So if you already have a job, this is a good job for you to look at. Experience with both Objective-C and Swift, both separately and together on the same project. You have experience working with RESTful APIs and designing them. Well-versed in auto layout and can design complex layouts using UIKit. You have experience with core data and other forms of persistent storage, stuff with your team, solving problems, bachelor's degree, et cetera, et cetera. Things that you would probably expect. That'll talk about what you do. Some bonus points. If you understand technologies like Model View, View Model, Reactive Swift. I'm assuming they meant to type RX Swift and Realm. You have experience writing unit tests. You have experience with CocoaPods, monitoring and improving app performance, and evidence of your work, open source contributions on GitHub or live apps in the App Store. Okay, very cool. They also talk about things that they do as well as their perks, which is kind of cool. So lots of good insurance, life insurance, vision, dental, medical, 401k, things like that. Working from home Wednesdays, but this is a remote job, obviously. I don't think it specifically says that here. Oh yeah, San Francisco or remote. So that would be you every day, remote all the time. 3 weeks of paid time off, 12 company holidays, full company shutdown last week of December. So they talk about all the cool things you can do. Yeah, that's that. So that's Doximity, kind of a cool job. Oh, I think they also talked about participation in hack days. Yeah, so time reserved for you to scratch a code itch, which is pretty cool. So they give you time to invest in yourself, to learn new stuff. And you can even read about their engineering stack if you want to hear about it. They had a link, but it doesn't appear to actually go anywhere. That's ironic. Anyway, so that's Doximity. All right, next one is for a company called Tablet Command. Next generation incident management application for public safety and emergency responders. Looks like the iPad app brings an intuitive, easy to use, robust application to first responders for notifications, stuff like that, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so 3 to 4 years professional experience with iOS, knowledge of design patterns, data structures and algorithms, experience with RESTful APIs, organized, able to be self-managed and collaborate across teams. Action-oriented, diligent, and flexible, passion for public safety and mission-critical software. If that sounds like you, might want to apply. Next up, Trello. Atlassian, who owns Trello, has posted this. But basically, yeah, it's for an iOS developer position, and you have incredible talent for mobile with innovative and well-received apps in the App Store that showcase this. You possess a deep knowledge of iOS, gained through years of experience. You're a self-starter, effortless communicator who cares more about solving problems than being right. Excellent command of written and spoken English, comfortable with Swift and Objective-C, and you have an eye for design and user experience. Remote job, iOS developer for Trello, pretty cool. I'll be sharing the links with this in just a bit. Then, this is a company called Plug, and I cannot remember where they are based out of. I think that they're just fully remote. They don't have a central office, kind of like Devslopes. But yeah, contract iOS developer to close out beta. This could be a good thing for someone who doesn't necessarily have a ton of professional experience. Someone who's they've learned a lot and they can build great apps and write great code. They're just looking to close out their beta. So obviously it's a contract position, but they're paying pretty well for a contract position. And basically, it's an app that is multi-platform secure file transfer. I don't know. But yeah, basically they ask for advanced knowledge in software engineering, mobile app development, Swift 3 or Swift 4, Xcode, storyboards, Git, verbal communication skills. Additional is if you have Mac OS or Android development. And they like it if you know how to use Alamo Fire, AV Audio Player, things like Facebook API, Google API, stuff like that. So that is that. That's another one. And the last one is for a company called Stack Builders. Oh, you know what? Shoot. That last one I had looks like is not here anymore. I just refreshed the page. So I guess that is the last one. Sorry, folks. But yeah, that's that. Those are the jobs that I have found. I will share those with you. And yeah, so I think I am here. Hopefully, can you guys see me? I don't know if you guys can see me. There we go. Cool. Awesome. Yeah. So do you guys have any questions? You guys want to chat about anything? You guys have projects you're working on, questions, anything of the sort? Now is your chance.
Nope.
Nope, that's all right.
Just wrapping my brain around all the good stuff.
Well, cool. Well, yeah, guys. Any of you guys who are here, if you don't want to chime in now, that's totally fine. You guys are always free to send me a DM in Slack. I'll post the links in the iOS channel very shortly. But yeah. Very cool. Thanks for joining us today, guys. I'll be sure to upload this to YouTube and share it there as well for those of you who were not able to join us, which actually I don't even know why I say that, because obviously if you're not here, you're not hearing this. So anyway, awesome. Thanks for tuning in, guys. And yeah, we'll see you next week.
Thanks, Caleb.
See ya.